morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us live. We are live on both stream, I think, Facebook and YouTube. I invite everybody, please invite people, share, because this is going to be an amazing day. I came with my tissue ready because I know it's going to be a moving testimony because it's going to be an amazing day. So my name is Alinu Motoni. This is my YouTube channel, and one of the goal of this channel is to create a platform where we can have a place where we can share our story as genocide survivors, but also as everybody who feels like they have a story that they need to be able to share to the world to empower. We are not here to bring division. We are not here to do any other agenda, but to bring empowerment, to help people know that there is hope. There is hope and there is hope. So I don't want to take a long time. I want to bring the main speakers here. We have Mr. Albert and Mr. Omisdas. For everybody who's been in my channel, you know Mr. Omisdas. He's an author of 2 books, and I would like for him to introduce himself because he's I will call him. He's like the co-host. He has become a co-host because I want to make sure that anybody that I interview, if English is not a language that they feel comfortable talking about, sharing their story, that they are more than welcome to to share it in either French or Kinyarwanda, and Mr. Omisdas is here to help me if it's not in English, to be able to translate it to the best of my ability. However, I am going to make sure that every interviews are subtitles either in French or Kinyarwanda or English, so that you guys don't trust my full translation, because I don't trust my translation either. So so that you have the full content and the full story to the fullness. So Mr. Omisdas, can you please introduce yourself and tell us who you are and everything about you?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Aline. My name is Hormistas Naishimye. I am author of 2 books, Heritage from Father, and sortiren them durant le Genocide. It's in French. The first one is in English, another in French. I am genocide survivor. I live in Rwanda. I live in Butare in Rwanda with my wife and 2 children. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And without further ado, I would like to have the main speaker, Mr. Albert. Murashaka kuvuga mu Kinyarwanda, mu Gifaransa cyangwa mu Cyongereza? Sorry, can you unmute your mic? Your mic is on mute.
Klikaho kuri mute.
Yeah. We still cannot hear you. I think it's your headphones, because we cannot hear you. Now you are on mute. I think you have to unmute yourself. Yeah, now it's fine. We still can't hear you. No.
ashobora kugacomokora tukumva ko kuri computer.
I think mushobora gukuraho écouteur mukavuga kubera ntabwo turimo kubumva na écouteur. I think it's the headphones.
Albe gacomokore kose yego. Oya kuri mute buriya ne.
No, now kuri mute. He's no longer now he's on mute. Now mwari muri kuri, I think it's your headphones or or maybe the computer's sound.
Gachomokoremo.
Sorry, guys. This is the live situation. This is the live. We even had an issue having him on. So will keep us in prayer. The enemy does not want this to come out, but in Jesus' name we are triumphant, and we are going to have this interview in Jesus' name. So we're gonna try. We're gonna try it again. You on mute again. So
Yachomokoye byose.
so yeah, bikuyemo ariko ari noneho ari on mute. He muted him. He put himself on mute. So Mr. or Miss, that's while Mr. Albert find his way, how did you feel after your friend shared his story? Gute mwumvaga mumeze? Mushobora kubivuga mu Gifaransa cyangwa mu Cyongereza? Actually mu Gifaransa it's better. Because I know
Oui.
better in Canada.
Vous me demandez au sujet de son histoire. Oh, son histoire, c'est une histoire très, très poignante. Vous vous imaginez, c'est sa maman qui a tué ses huit enfants, et puis lui, il a survécu.
Non, not Albert. Ndavuga Monsieur Alexandre. ndabizi ko Albert turabivugaho ndavuga interview la semaine passée l'interview
avec Alexandre
la semaine passée
oui.
last week's testimony because it was yewe nararwaye birangije I was like
oui l'histoire donc je peux parler en français.
Nta kibazo
d'accord donc l'histoire d'Alexandre c'est une histoire très poignante parce que depuis sa naissance, parce que vous avez compris que son père a été chassé du Rwanda en 1961, quand Alexandre était encore dans le ventre de sa mère. Il n'a pas connu son père qui était réfugié au Burundi. Et chaque fois qu'il essayait de retourner pour rester avec sa famille, avec ses 5 enfants, avec sa femme, on ne l'autorisait pas à retourner parce qu'on disait qu'il était Enyinyenzi et cockroach, qu'il ne pouvait pas retourner au Rwanda alors qu'il n'était pas accusé de faire quelque chose, de faire un crime, ou tout simplement parce qu'il est né Tutsi, on disait ne retournez pas. Et vous avez entendu le témoignage d'Alexandre quand il a vu pour la première fois son père, on l'a fait retourner en arrière. Et quand il est arrivé à retourner, quand on a payé, on a dit, il a payé, sa femme a payé des vaches, a donné des vaches à une autorité pour autoriser son père de retourner dans son pays. Et puis, quand il est retourné, après avoir payé ces vaches, on est allé le torturer. Vous comprenez? Et puis, il est retourné vraiment comme handicapé dans sa propre famille. Il n'était plus un homme qui avait de la force, il était torturé comme handicapé. Il est mort vraiment dans cette situation. Tout au début, vous comprenez que c'était des problèmes avec sa maman, qui avait beaucoup de problèmes pour élever ses 5 enfants, son oncle qui voulait prendre comme sa propre femme. Donc, c'était des problèmes qui continuaient. Et puis, vous avez entendu Alexandre dans son travail, comment, quand on a découvert qu'il était Tutsi, parce qu'avant, on ne savait pas qu'il était Tutsi. Mais quand on a découvert qu'il était Tutsi, alors on a commencé à le maltraiter. Alors que c'était un type qui travaillait très très bien, mais à cause de son appartenance ethnique, il a commencé à avoir des problèmes, jusqu'à ce que le génocide commence et on tue sa femme, son enfant. C'était vraiment un calvaire. C'était un calvaire. Et puis, il était arrivé à falsifier son identité parce que cette question d'ethnie, c'est une falsification aussi. Parce que vraiment, la définition de l'ethnie n'existait pas au Rwanda parce que on est différent. Parce que l'ethnie, c'est que quand il y a deux ethnies, c'est qu'il y a la différence de culture, de religion, ou bien de territoire. Il y a, les uns habitent dans leur territoire, mais nous, au Rwanda, ce n'est pas comme ça. Ou des questions de couleur, non. Alors, c'est pour cela qu'on a connu, on a su qu'il était Tutsi parce qu'on a regardé dans l'identité, dans son identité. Et les choses que l'autorité a fait pour menacer son groupe-là.
Mm-hmm.
Alors, alors il est arrivé à falsifier son identité et
Mm-hmm.
puis il a été sauvé. Il a été
Mm-hmm.
sauvé et même si c'était dur parce qu'on l'a invité à travailler, comme il nous a dit, travailler, c'était tuer, hein,
Mm-hmm.
à, à tuer les Tutsis. On l'a invité à tuer les Tutsis et puis, grâce à Dieu, il est tombé malade, il est allé à l'hôpital et, les soldats de l'FP l'ont trouvé à l'hôpital, c'est comme ça qu'il a été sauvé. Mais c'était vraiment un calvaire. Toute son histoire, c'est du calvaire. C'est du calvaire.
Yeah.
Mais, et puis il y a des détails qui sont terribles, des détails dans son histoire. Hein. Vraiment, je pense que
Yeah.
euh,
So let me translate. Let me translate it. Hopefully, Mr. Albert now has a good network. So let me translate it before we start with Mr. Albert. So, uh, Mr. Omistas was giving like a short summary about the story of Mr. Alexander, the previous interview that we had last week. That was, for me, it was, I got sick. The first part, we couldn't even get to the genocide of, against Tutsis of 1994 because the first part, the genocide against the Tutsis of 1959, actually affected him because his father was chased out of Rwanda in 1961, and he was born in 1962 without his father being around. So he grew up without having his father around because his father was chased out of the country just because he was Tutsi. And when the father came back in 1973, it's 1976, when he came back to see him for the first time, to see his family for the first time, he didn't even stay for 15 minutes. He was again chased out of Rwanda because he was Tutsi, and they tried by all means to bring he tried by all means to come back and hide and come back. When he got to his family, he was arrested and put in prison and tortured while in prison, to the point that his wife actually bribed the officers to release him. But then by the time they released him out of the prison, he was he was paralyzed. He was like literally like he could not do anything because they tortured him so much that he couldn't even work anymore. He couldn't walk. So he suffered just because he was Tutsi. So all his life he was not around his five children. He didn't even get the chance to see his fifth child being born, which is Mr. Alexander. And after the during the genocide, they were all killed. So Mr. Alexander was talking about. So the first part is his story about how his father uh, survived, but actually how it had like like a consequence, like an emotional consequence of being raised, knowing that your father is in another country, not because he ran away because he didn't want you, but he ran away because he was chased out of the country because he was Tutsi. So I encourage you to watch the two parts. It's very moving. It's traumatic. I was translating it, and I promise you, I got sick after translating it because it was. And he shared also how he said goodbye to his wife. You know how they killed his wife and his daughter. Um, the prayers that he asked God. He's like, okay, God, why do you hate us so much? Like, why do you hate the Tutsis that you just want us to die? You know, he was thinking of throwing himself in the river, but you know, at the end he remembered that his mom said, oh, you know what, if you commit suicide you will not go to heaven. And he's like, my mom is in heaven, my family is in heaven. If I kill myself, I'm not going to go to heaven. So might as well just scream, and so they can find me and cut me to pieces so that I can go to my family. And he couldn't scream. He couldn't scream. So he was so hungry, so tired that he tried to scream and sing out, and the voice couldn't come out. So the story short, he survived the genocide, and his story is, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say, but just say it's God. He's alive because God really kept him. And yeah, so I hope Mr. Albert's internet will work, because his story too is, oh my Jesus, it is. It's an, I don't even know how to. This morning I decided to listen to his story again. Oh, he's back. Yay! Thank you, Father. I pray it works now. Okay. Mr. Albert, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
uratwumva rube?
Hello.
Uratwumva?
Yes.
Hello.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yes, yes, turakumva ngwino.
Turakumva.
Do you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. So now we can hear you. Don't move. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you very much.
Amatara nago tukubona neza ariko na kibazo. As long as we can hear you, I think it will be fine.
Oh, biracika.
Lord, I pray that you would allow us to have this interview. I pray over the internet of Mr. Albert. Lord, we pray that he will be able to share his testimony. Please pray, because his story is moving. The enemy is a bastard and he's not going to win. He never won and he will never win. So we hope that his internet will work. So I was saying this morning, I just decided to listen to his story again in Kinyarwanda. My God!
Mais Aline, j'ai appris beaucoup à Albert. Et puis à vous aussi, parce que vous avez eu le courage de dire vos histoires. Vous savez que j'ai la peine de dire ce que j'ai écrit, parce que je me rappelle dans mon livre Heritage from Father, j'ai parlé comment, une fois, on m'a raconté comment un prêtre a détruit son église sur ces paroissiens qui étaient remplis, c'était à Nyangé, peut-être que vous avez écouté l'histoire.
Ah, j'ai appris cette histoire, yeah.
Oui, mais alors, ce prêtre, j'aurais vu à Rome quand j'étais étudiant. Alors, quelqu'un m'a dit, ce prêtre a détruit l'église sur ses fidèles. Alors, je me dis, non, ça c'est du mensonge. Je dis, c'est du mensonge, vraiment, c'est de rien ça. Mais après, quand on aura arrêté, beaucoup ont témoigné. Et puis, on l'a condamné je ne sais pas, 30 ans de prison, je ne me rappelle, mais, ou bien prison à vie. Mais il a été coupable. Il a fait ça. Moi, je n'imaginais pas comment un prêtre peut détruire l'église, les fidèles qui s'étaient cachés là-bas pendant le génocide. Vraiment, je n'imaginais pas. Alors, quand je raconte, quand je parle de mon livre, à cette histoire, je n'arrivais pas à parler de ça parce que c'est dur, c'est dur. Il y a aussi des sœurs ici à Boutalé, à Sauvou. Il y a des sœurs qui ont acheté de l'essence pour brûler les réfugiés dans leur institution, ici à Boutalé. Aussi, ses sœurs ont été condamnées en Belgique.
Wait,
Donc,
I need to translate this before we continue.
Oui.
So, Mr. or Mrs. Was saying that Mr. Abbott's testimony and my testimony have helped him to be able to talk about more stories that he even wrote by collecting the testimonies and putting his book, the first book, Heritage from Father. And he's mentioning a story uh, uh, that is hard to even share because if you haven't actually heard about the story of Mr. Omistas, I invite you to also watch. It's also on my YouTube channel. It's called Interview with Author Omistas. Then you will hear his whole story about his two books. But the first book, the one in English, in that book, he mentioned a story about a priest, because Mr. Omistas was in Rome during the genocide against the Tutsis of 1984, and he was studying to become a Catholic priest. So he said he's a Catholic priest during the genocide who actually destroyed the whole church that was filled with Tutsi people that had run to the church to hide, and he just destroyed the whole church and they were inside. He burned them alive, basically. They were all burnt alive. And he was like, when he was in Rome, he met that priest, and people were like, oh, this is the priest that actually burnt the people alive, the Tutsi people alive. And he couldn't understand. He's like, how can a priest burn like his whole congregation? Because the congregation, the Tutsi members of the congregation ran to him to find a refuge in the church, and he burned the church. He burned down the church as the priest. So him, as a Catholic priest who was as a person who was about to become a priest, he just couldn't understand. And when he was arrested, he was like, "Oh my goodness, he really did it." And he was sentenced for 30 years or life to life. So he's talking about like unbelievable stories that you can't even understand, you can't even fathom. How can somebody burn alive his congregation just because they are Tutsis, you know? Then he was also mentioning another case of nuns that happened. Actually, it happened in Butare, where he is, where I was born. And these nuns, okay, they actually, oh Jesus, so these people just ran to the church I'm sorry guys, talking about that story is just not the best. That's what I told you. When you read his book, when I got to that part, I just could not read it because it triggered my own testimony, so I could not read that part. But let's just say the nun did the unthinkable. Just, yeah. So that's what he was talking about. Like the level of animosity, the level of wickedness. And last week we were even talking about the people that were eating, they were cutting Tutsis and just taking out the heart and barbecuing it, you know. Talking about like women who are pregnant, opening their stomach, taking out the babies, cutting them to pieces, asking the woman to eat her baby. Like it's those unthinkable stories that makes you like sit down and be like, how can somebody think like that? Like get to that point of seeing another human being as, yeah, it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't add up. Like that is why you just have to be like, you know what, it's the, like, you know, it's the devil. They were just possessed, or they were out of their mind or something like that. So Mr. Abed, can you hear us?
Yes, please. I can hear you.
Thank you, Jesus.
But
Okay, so murashaka kuvuga mu Kinyarwanda, mu Gifaransa cyangwa mu Cyongereza?
ndashaka kuvuga mu Cyongereza.
Okay, perfect. So there will be no translation today. Hallelujah. He's going to be speaking in English. Glory to Jesus. Because I'm sorry, but I was telling God, I'm like, God Almighty, I don't know if I'm going to be able to translate today. I'm like, Lord, make him decide to do it in English. So he decided. I didn't force him. He decided to do it in English. So glory to Jesus. So Mr. Albert, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Okay, thank you first of all. Let me take this opportunity to thank you. I'm very lucky to meet you and to meet Mr. Homisdas. I'm very lucky to know you. My name is Albert Nsengimana. I'm genocide survivor. I live in Rwanda. I'm now deputy camp manager of Kiziba refugee camp. I'm now working in a refugee camp called the Kiziba refugee camp. It is located in the Eastern Province in the Karongi district, but now I'm not there. I'm at the Eastern Province, nearest to the place I was born. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So where were you born? Can you tell us like where were you born? How old were you when you were in the when the genocide against the Tutsis happened? And how old how many siblings did you have? And like just I want stop you. I want you to share your story um just yeah, start from the beginning, and then as you feel, just flow with however you feel like. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. I was born in the Eastern Province. It is now in the Kayonza district, Kabarondo sector, just near to the Kabarondo city. It is just near the Kabarondo city. It is in a village called the Kabura. So it is. I was born in a village. It can take you like 10 kilometers from the main road to my place I was born.
That's great. Carry on, carry on. Take your time. Like I won't stop you.
Okay. Yeah. So actually, I was born in a family, in the agriculture and heritage family. Just we live in a village. That village I said called the Kabura. So it is just the villages before genocide, how the people they live together. So in my background, I live in a family with 11 member of family, my siblings and my father and my mother. So as I wrote in my book, my father was Tutsi, my mother was Hutu. So it means we just because during a genocide they decide when they're killing Tutsi, they said the kids must take the part of their father. Like as you know, in our culture, they said the men are the one who responsible of I mean the representative of the whole family. Yeah. So during the genocide, I was 7 years old. So even I was the 7 kids of my family. So because all kids were 9, so I was the 7. Yeah. May I
So
continue?
yeah, so you were the seven. You guys were nine boys. You had 8 siblings, but they were all 9 boys, right?
Yes, we were all boys.
Okay. So during
Yeah.
so of course, I mean, you were 7, I was 5. And many people think that, you know, when like as young as 5 or 6 or 7, like there's no memory of that time. But that's not true. I don't believe that. I mean, I've lived it, and you can testify that you remember very well what you did. You remember very well the thing that you've done, even before the genocide. But can you take us a little bit, like before 1995, 1994? Like, what did you have, like a family? Did you feel like you were raised by two different tribes of parents, or have you ever felt like your parents was like dividing and making you feel like, okay, your mom is Hutu, and like, did you ever feel like that kind of like difference in tribes among your parents?
Oh, yeah, I did not understand well the question, but let me try
So
to
like, did you feel like,
just
did
to
you
answer
ever
what
did
can.
you reka mbikubaze mu kinyarwanda, wigeze wumva
Yeah.
mama wawe cyangwa papa wawe avuga ngo uri umututsi, uri umuhutu? Like, did you ever like hear that, those kind of words in the family, or was it just like you were just a normal family?
Yeah, actually, I did not hear that word. No, in my childhood, I did not even, I was child, so I did not take even time to 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 maybe to realize what exactly what Hutu and Tutsi I didn't. So,
Oh,
but I remember one day just we went to visit our cousins, but it was like in 1993. So we just went one day, went to visit my cousins. So when we were there, they said maybe uh, in our family we have a Tutsis, but yeah, just but they said as joking, but I did not realize that maybe there is a plan cross to kill the Tutsis, but I didn't just take a time to realize as a kid.
yeah. I can
Yeah,
I
but
can
I
imagine
remember,
how
for
difficult.
example, yes,
Yeah, I can.
always a kid,
Yeah.
always a kid, they just joking, just playing football and taking care of cows. So we cannot take time for, yeah, kids are innocent. So
Yeah.
those,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so, but I know sometime, for example, like my neighbor took my my brothers, beat them. Just they said you are Tutsi, but actually for me, it was just like a usual situation.
Okay. So now,
Yeah.
so you were the seventh child out of nine boys. So tell us, I mean, like, try to drive us through. So your dad was still alive before when the genocide against the Tutsis started, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what
Yeah.
happened?
My
Can you tell us a little bit, like, how was that day, the day that changed everything? Like, how did you start your day? Can you just like drive us, like, take us through? I mean, you wrote it in your book. You shared how your day started, how you took the goats, to for like, you took care of the goats and stuff. But can you tell the people that don't know the story? Because I know your story, but I don't think many people know your story. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened that day, the day that changed your life forever?
Oh, yes, I remember the 7 April when they said the president of Rwanda, his plane just fall down. So I remember during that night, it was just a normal night in a village. So, but in the morning, next morning, I remember um, it was in Wednesday, maybe. I don't remember very well, but I think it was in Wednesday or Thursday in the morning. So I saw many people had the traditional weaponry. I mean the arc, um, the machete. So they just move one place to another. Even they was saying, they said, "We will kill you." They said, "We will kill the Inyens," and then they said the Inyens is the one who killed the president Habyarimana. So I saw them; they were too many, so they just passed in front of our house. But how I saw them, they were very angry because they said the Tutsis are the one who killed the president Habyarimana. But for me as a kid, I said maybe it is just maybe the anger of people. So maybe soon they will be back as normal situation. So I remember, so because I was young, I was with my two young brother. The one was 5. The last one was 3 years old. So because as a kids, we just take care of the goats, and then we took them to outside just to in the farm. So we took our time like 2 hours or 3 hours, and then in afternoon, then we came back at home. Then I found no one at home. So because we were taking care of the goat, uh, some Interahamwe just they came to kill my big brother, my even my father. But that one, those one who came to kill my brothers were the side of my mother, because the side of my mother were Hutu. Even the one who was the chief of the militias was my uncle. So because he was a Hutu, even he was the power of control everything. So and then they came to take my mother because they said he's in his side, he's in the bad side. So they said we only have a relationship with my mother because she was a Hutu. They said the others we don't have any relatives. We don't have any cooperation with the Tutsis. So and then they evacuate my mother. Even you can't imagine. They were my uncles, my cousins, and then instead of help us to survive, they decided to kill us. So and then they said the Tutsis are enemy, Tutsis are snakes, so they must die. Uh, I remember, but that at the moment I was not there. As I said, I was out taking care of goat with my two young brother. So when we came back, we did not see anyone at home because they just tried to escape. Even if it was not easy, uh, I tried to take care of my two young brother, and then we spent the whole night in the house. The family of 9 children. So to stay there even only one night alone with my two young brother, it was somehow difficult. It was very bad, but as as how I love my brother. As I said, I am responsible of helping my two young brother to survive, but it was not easy. Can you imagine the kid of 7 years old
Taking
taking
care of
care
the
of
five and three.
his two young brother, 1 5? Yeah, so to manage the situation, even to understand the situation, yeah, it was very tough for me as a kid. So, but I tried my best. We spend one night in our own house, and then the next morning, I went to my grandfather of my father. So I just went there to tell them we are on. We need someone to protect us, and then um, he told me he know he's a Tutsi, so maybe even soon they will come to kill him. And then he told me it's okay. You can go to your grandmother. You can go to your grandmother of your mother because she's a Hutu.
His
Maybe
photo.
they will help us to survive.
Yeah.
So I just yeah, so I just took my two young brother, the last one, I just put him on my back, and then I hold other in my hands. So I remember when we passed in the road, we saw some dead bodies. The people knew him, or others, most of them were kids. I saw many dead bodies. Even it was the second days. You can't imagine. So it
DJs,
means
this is I don't mean to stop you there, but this is why this is why it really angers me when I hear people saying that um it was not a genocide. Like for me, I don't understand how you kill a 5 year old, a baby, a newborn, a 2 year old. Like, I mean, that child is not even in a political party. That child doesn't even know their name. Like, if there was no genocide, what that child? Why can that child just have to die just because they were born of a Tutsi father or of Tutsi parents? Like for me, it just doesn't add up. When I hear people try to argue about the genocide, did it happen? Did it not happen? I'm like, do you even have to sit down and think about it? Like when you saw those dead body on the second day, on April 8th, like did you think of like a war? And it wasn't like they shoot them; they cut them to pieces. It's I'm sorry, it just angers me when I hear somebody like just like try to say, oh, we shouldn't call it a genocide, it's a war. No, it's despicable what you had to go through while you were working with a 5 year old and a 3 year old, and you had to be an adult because you were 7. So you also had to you became an adult automatically. You started thinking of the safety of your 5 and 3 year old, and you forgot that you were a child. So you stopped even being a child at that moment. So your childhood was already like gone. It was done. You had to think about the safety of your siblings. So yeah, so then you went to your grandmother on your mother's side, thinking you were so. And also there's something that you said, that when you met your grandfather, the father of your father, the Tutsi, your grandfather who was Tutsi, you believe you were the last person to see him, because you went to him to give him the goat because you thought they will be safe at his house, right? And then when you got there, he's like, "Don't even bother with the goats. Save yourself and go to your grandmother on your mother's side." And it was like your last conversation with your grandfather was like he was literally saying goodbye to you. So can you tell us a little bit how you felt when you were leaving your grandfather's house? with a sense of like never to see him again?
Yeah, actually, as I said, even in my family, I live in I mean the family of my father. I'm the last one who saw our grandfather. I'm the last one. Others they did not see him. I mean, at the last day of his life in this world, I'm the last one who saw him. My father, my grandfather of my father. Yeah. So actually, as you said, I mean, we saw incredible thing. We saw let me say, according to me, how I saw that genocide happen, it was like an apocalypse. It was like I cannot say there is nothing you can compare with thing we have saw that day. You cannot you cannot compare to other thing. We saw very bad thing. So me, I said, even my childhood was just roast. I cannot. I Let me tell you the truth. My childhood, I just lost everything. I lost my family. I lost my generation. I lost my friends. So everything has disappeared to me. So I just
Your
started
innocence was taken. Your
being a
like
people.
basically your innocence.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, anytime when I was writing my book and I got to the chapter of talking about the genocide, I
Yeah.
I because you go back, you like your memories take you back, so you feel the feelings, you remember the imagine, like you remember everything. I realized that that was the time when I stopped trusting adults because I just didn't understand why these adults were killing us, and I didn't even understand. I had never heard in my life my dad calling me Tutsi or anything. The first time I was called a name was a cockroach. I kid you not. That was the first time I realized I was different. Nobody told me I was Tutsi. I didn't even know I was Tutsi. So I grew up not knowing. And like you, I also have the same background like you. My mom was Hutu. My dad was Tutsi. But my mom died when I was 13 months. So I grew up with my dad, and like my dad raised me, but I never like heard. I don't have any. I have a clear memory of my dad. I remember a lot of things about my dad, but I don't have any memory about like being called a Tutsi. So it was just like it angers me when I hear somebody saying that oh my god, his network just went off. um like when they like say nothing happened, like as a child you witnessing like your dad being killed. I witnessed my dad being killed, and then it's adults. For me, I didn't even know who they were. So for me, I was like, I can't trust any person who's adult. I can't trust any man. And for me, it took me a long time to trust a man because I was like, all the men, all the people, all the killers that I saw were men. So I was like, definitely, I will never trust a man or his back. Are you? Can you talk, Mr. Albert? You on mute.
My network is.
Yeah, I figured because you just left. So yes, so okay,
Do
so
you hear me?
yes, now I can hear you.
Do
So
you hear me,
now
please?
yes, we
Do
can
you
hear
hear
you.
me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. So I was
Do you
saying
hear me?
yes, we can hear you.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, I think my network is
Can you hear us? We can hear you perfectly. You can talk. Hello? Oh, he's gone. Gosh, network is not the best. He's back. Monsieur Armistice, vous
do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you now.
We don't know.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Albert. We can hear you.
My network was cut off.
That's fine. You can talk. We can hear you.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you. Hello? Hello, we can hear you. You can talk. You don't have to put your camera on, but I could hear you. Oh gosh, everybody's network, even Mr. or Miss Das is gone. So for those who are joining us, we are sorry. This is what technology does. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I am praying and hopeful that they are going to work. Okay, Mr. or Miss Das is back. Mr. Abbott, his network is not going well, but we are going to wait and we are going to do this interview. So be patient and pray for his network to work because his testimony is, beyond amazing. Okay, he's back. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes. Thank you, Jesus. Okay, so you were talking about.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. Okay, so tell us. So go now tell us about you left your grandfather's house, so you were the last person to see him before he was killed. Then you left and you went to your grandmother's house on your mother's side, who was Hutu. What happened when you got there with your siblings? Sorry guys, his network is not doing good, so we're praying that it will work. Even Mr. or Miss Das network is also not doing great, so I am praying it's gonna work. But honestly, his story is, yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know how to explain it. It is, yeah. When I heard his story, I just, yeah. I would say God touched me and helped me to forgive my own family. So I know it will help somebody today to forgive someone they need to forgive. So yeah, Mr. Abed, can you hear us? Mr. Abed, can you hear us? Okay, now.
Is it mute?
Yeah, can you unmute yourself because now you are on mute.
Oh la la.
Connection Yanse Kalisa. We are going
Yes.
to we're going to make it work because I really want this testimony to come out because his story is just amazing. Like
Oh la la.
Monsieur Albert, when nous say you would on mute.
Oh la la. Wowe ntiwabishobora ko.
I tried to unmute him, but then he like he left, like not he left, like he was disconnected. So
Yeah.
to take it, but article to show, my God. So you know when I read the side of the part when he was talking about his grandfather, on his
Yeah.
father's side, the grandfather, his father's father,
Mm.
he goes there to go. He actually still did not understand that there was a genocide happening. So because in his head he was like, oh my goodness, they are trying to come to kill us. So let me take the goats to my grandfather's house. They're going to be safer there. And then he went with his two brothers, two younger brother, 5 and 3 years old. And then he gets there and his grandfather is like, my son, leave these goats and run for your life because now they are coming for us. They are going to kill every Tutsis. You don't worry about these goats. They're not coming for the goats. They're coming for to kill us.
Yeah.
And that was his last time to meet his grandfather, to see his grandfather before he was killed. Then he goes to his grandmother, thinking that he's going to be safe, and that's when they took his younger brothers and his brothers to the killers. Mr. Abed, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh gosh, his network is so bad. But I'm telling you, this story is coming out. Whether by fire or by force, I read his book, so I can myself testify about his story while he comes. So he gets to his oh, there he is. Thank you, Jesus. Mr. Albert, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Hello? He's not on mute. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jesus.
Yes,
So,
please.
yes, so, okay, carry on. So, you got to your grandmother's
Yes, I can hear
house.
you.
Yes, so you got to your grandmother's house with your two brothers.
Yes, please.
What happened?
Ntabwo yakumvise.
Mr. Abed? Hello? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so, yes, perfect. So you got to your grandmother's, your mother's mother to run with your
I
two siblings.
can hear you.
Yes, can you tell us now what happened from the time you got to your grandmother's house? What happened? Hello?
Okay. Yeah, before I get to my grandmother or my mother's house, actually, I remember because I was with my two young brothers. So yes, I can hear you.
Yes, carry on. I hear you very well. Carry on, carry on.
Do you hear?
Yes, carry on, carry on. We can hear you very well.
Oh, hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Oh,
We can hear you. You can carry on.
oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
So yes, Okay, good. So was 2 years said. The youngest, the youngest asked me because we saw the road, the brother they were asked, oh, see, he asked why they were died. So I said because they were see, was too young. So to see this was somehow it was his first time to see dead bodies. So he asked me why the people killing others they are asked me are we Tutsis? And then me okay if we Tutsis so we will die. No, we will not die. Definitely, but I my the so that it is I remember how my brass asked me to and when I remember so I promised him life but unfortunately he so it was not so done from our grandfather of mother it was too far it 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers. I don't. It was like a hand hiding in front. Even me myself, I was my foot. I was empty of shoes. I did not have even shoes to move from the place to another place because you know when the people are escaped, you cannot take care of the shoes or whatever. So I remember all genocide. When genocide happened, I was off of shoes. Can you imagine?
Trust me, I
To
can.
run without a shoes. It was somehow. Do you hear me?
Yes, carry on, carry on. Your network is great. Yeah, it's fine. We can hear you.
May I continue?
Yes, please continue, continue.
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we continue that way because even I just do only one way. So we continue uh, and then even the rain because you know one normally have it is a rain season.
Yeah, I remember. I
Even
remember the rain.
I remember the rain were there. So but we try to keep we move on my houses. When I arrived there, I saw the us. I mean the brothers. Young, I was with them, but I four brothers, except our old brother,
Mm-hmm.
mama, brother.
So you found four brothers, and then except the oldest. So the oldest was not in your at your grandmother's house. It was only your four other brothers, and then you and your two siblings. So you were eight. I think we lost him again. So for those who had trouble understanding what he was saying, so he said on his way to his grandmother,
The
after leaving.
second,
Okay, sorry. Yes, carry on. I thought the network was not working, so I wanted to let people know what you. Oh God, he's gone. But anyway, while we wait for him, I know it was a little bit broken. So let me share a little bit because I read his book. So on his way from his grandfather's house to his grandmother who was Hutu, the mother of his mother house, they were walking and they were seeing dead bodies and blood and all this atrocity that you cannot even, there's no horror movie that can describe what a child, like the traumatic thing to see dead bodies on the streets, and dead people. So the younger child was asking him, it's like, what is this, like, why all this, are we going to also be also like this? And then he tried to be an adult and he's like, no, it's not gonna be like this. And it's like, oh, are they only killing Tutsis, like are we also going to be killed? Like a little child, asking the question, are we also gonna be next? So then they walked, and of course they were traumatized because he was with his two younger siblings, one of 5 years old and the other one was 3 years old. And when they got to his grandmother's house, they found four of his other siblings. So there were 9 children, and there were 9 children, and two. He had two of his siblings. The little one, 3 and 5, and then the other 5, the other yeah, the other 6. Wait a minute. He was the 7th out of 9 children. So when he got to his grandmother, 4 were with his grandmother. So that's how many. So there were two of his siblings that were missing at his grandmother when he got there, because he found 4 of his siblings there. So 4 plus 3 is 7. So the oldest was not there because the oldest was killed with his father. So there was another one that was not in the house. So they were missing one, because remember there was one that was killed with his father. So they had become 8. Then when he got to his grandmother, he found, instead of finding 5, he found 4 of his siblings, and now there were 7 out of 8 because the oldest one was already killed at that time. So that's the side that he left. So we are praying that his network comes. But so it's the horror happened at his grandmother's house. Now you can imagine, like, your grandmother is a place of safety. Like, you run as a child, if you say we're going to grandma's house, it's a place of, like, a place where you feel like nothing will happen if you are there. Like, it's a place where, as a child, like, you were like, oh, you know what, it's gonna be okay. I'm at my grandmother's house. But that was not the case for Albert. When he got there with his younger siblings, the grandmother called her children to come and kill her grandchildren. Okay, so I want him to share that story because that's for me, it will help you to understand. But before he comes, Mr. or Mrs., there is a
Oui,
story that I want us to talk about. That is not an easy story, but it actually goes a long way with the same
yeah,
as Mr. The Hutu woman who was asked to bury her child alive.
yeah. Euh,
Pouvez-vous partager cette histoire et puis je vais
oui,
traduire.
oui, c'est une histoire que ce sont des témoignages que j'ai écoutés parce que j'ai mis cette histoire même dans mon livre Sortir indemne de l'enfer du génocide. Mais j'avais de la peine à parler de cette histoire vraiment parce que c'est très poignant. Euh, donc c'était une femme Hutu qui avait épousé un Tutsi. Et puis pendant le génocide, les membres de sa famille ont dit, oh, tu as fait une erreur. Tu as fait une erreur. Tu as épousé un Hutu, un serpent. Même tes enfants, ce sont des serpents. Alors, ton enfant de 4 ans, c'est toi qui vas l'enterrer vivant. Alors, ils ont creusé un trou. Ils ont creusé un trou et puis ils ont pris l'enfant de 4 ans, l'ont mis dans un trou. Alors, ils ont commencé à frapper la femme en fait qu'il met de la terre sur son enfant. Alors, quand la femme est jetée de la terre sur l'enfant qui se trouvait dans le trou, l'enfant disait non, 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 maman, arrête de jouer, arrête de jouer. Parce qu'elle était petite, elle ne savait pas que sa mère, sa maman, était en train de l'enterrer. Et puis, arrête de jouer, maman, arrête de jouer. Mais on l'a frappé au point qu'elle aussi, elle ne se contrôle pas. Elle a continué aussi à mettre de la terre sur l'enfant jusqu'à ce qu'il a rempli de la terre surtout, il a enterré vivant son propre enfant. Parce que, bon, on l'a frappé, mais il était convaincu, peut-être il était convaincu que son enfant aussi vraiment était dangereux. Il a enterré vivant. Et puis, mais malheureusement, après, elle est devenue folle parce qu'on l'a laissé seule. On a tué son mari, les autres enfants. Et puis, elle est restée seule au point qu'après le génocide, elle est devenue folle.
Hein? Okay, let me translate it. Oui. So there is a story that is in his book, the second book, Sorti and then de l'enfer du génocide. Personally, I read Mr. Omista's 2 books. Okay, I read Heritage from Father and Sorti and then du génocide de l'enfer du génocide. When I got to that part, I threw away the book. I threw the book down. I just could not. Of course, I did throw it like in the trash. Like I just like put it as I could not read that side of the story. But it's a mother. The woman was Hutu, and they asked. She had other children. They killed her children. They killed her husband, and then her last born, the last one was 4 years old, and they said as a punishment because she married a Tutsi man. As a punishment, she's going to bury the 4-year-old alive. Okay. Then so she digged a grave for the child and she put the child in the grave and they started beating her and they were like, why did you marry a snake and you had a snake child? Like how could you do that? So they were beating her up and they were like she was putting the dust or the ground. How do you call it? Like when you're digging and you're putting the ground. Like she was shoveling, putting it in the grave while the child was in. So the child, a 4-year-old child, thought that the mom was playing with her. Okay, so the child was saying, "Mommy, don't play with me. Stop playing with me." Right, and she's burying the child alive. Okay, until she filled the grave and the child was alive she buried her child alive. I want you to sink it for anybody who has a child. I don't have a child yet, but I do have people that I consider as my children. I cannot imagine burying those children and a 4-year-old child, burying that child alive. Like you have to have gone through a brainwashing thing to believe that a 4-year-old child that you gave birth to is a threat. For me, it's a level of brainwash that I cannot fathom. Like I cannot understand. To this day, I read books because I tried to understand what was going on in the mind of the perpetrators. Like what was going on in their mind to believe that we were so insignificant to the point of burying your child alive because the child is Tutsi. I cannot understand it. Now, at the end of the genocide, this woman found herself alone because they killed her husband, they killed her children, and she became crazy, like she lost her mind. But it just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make, I mean, for me, you know, when I listen to stories like this, of this woman, when I listen to Mr. Albert's story, because his story is even mind-blowing. Okay, so the mother, actually, we might have to find another day for him to come when his network will not be breaking to tell the whole story, but I'm going to give you a sneak peek of his story, right? So he gets to his grandmother's house. Okay, now there are 7 out of 9. Okay, because 2 are missing. The older child was killed with his father. Then there was the second one was not there, so they did not know where he was. But to find out that the second born was actually the mother. His mother took him to his uncle's to be killed. Then the mother comes to her mother's house. So Albert's mother comes to the house. Okay, now if you see your mom, now you are in your grandmother's house, right? So you see your mother coming back, so you feel more safe. You feel more safe as a child, right? If you see your mother, of course, that's the sense of safety. Later on, you are with your grandmother, so it's safe. No, the mother takes the children, his other siblings, the older kids, and takes them to the killers to be killed. As if it's not enough, she comes back now and takes him. I want him to share that story because I can't. I'm sorry, but I can't. I read the book and even me, I still can't understand how she took 9 of her children. She took her children, the 9 children that she birthed. 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 children. 9 children. You can say you made a mistake with 1. How can you make 9 mistakes? It's Mr. or Mrs. No Kurikimana, give her you give Vivasa, CBs.
reka ngire icyo nongeraho.
Yeah, nta kibazo ndabumva.
Ce qui m'étonnait, c'est le comportement même des voisins. Parce que Albert, dans son témoignage, il paraît que quand sa maman le conduisait vers où se trouvaient les miliciens, guidés par son oncle, le frère de sa maman, ses cousins, ses cousines, les membres de sa grande famille, parce qu'on disait que c'était une grande famille. Ils disaient, oh, il faut le tuer, ou il faut continuer, il faut le conduire avec le tuer. Donc, personne n'avait pitié de cet enfant. C'est ça.
Mais vous vous rappelez de la partie où il disait, quand il est allé, sa maman l'avait attrapé. Sa maman avait attrapé sa main droite, sa tante avait attrapé sa main gauche.
Voilà.
Et c'est-à-dire, ils avaient fait en sorte qu'il ne va pas s'enfuir cette fois-ci parce qu'ils avaient tué tous les 8 enfants et il ne restait que lui. Donc, ils l'ont attrapé, sa mère à droite, sa tante à gauche et ses cousins étaient en train de supporter les tueurs.
D'applaudir.
Ils étaient en train d'applaudir les tueurs.
C'est ça qui m'étonne. Personne n'avait pas pitié de ces Tutsis. Je ne comprends pas.
Monsieur Omistas, attendez que je traduise. So, Mr. Omistas actually shared something that even me, when I was reading that book, I was amazed, okay? So, he's talking about the amazement of the neighbors and the relative. Okay, so that family, Albert's families on his mother's side, it was a big family. So they were cousins, uncles, and stuff like that, right? So when the mother was driving the kids to her brother, so the people that killed her children were not the neighbors; they were actually her siblings, her brothers. Okay, so now when she was driving the kids to the brothers to be killed, the cousins, the uncles, the aunties, they were clapping and they're like, yeah, take this snake, take him, take them, take them. They need to be killed. They were cheering them as they were walking to be cut to pieces. Then they took the 8 children, right? And Albert survived. So then he ran back to his grandmother. You see how a child is, right? Imagine you go back to the same house where they drove your brother, but it doesn't make sense. But as a child, grandmother is a safety. It's your mother. At that time, he had not understood. He had not understood that the mother wanted him dead. So now the mother and the sister decide to hold him because he's the last one to be killed. He's the last one left because they killed everybody. They killed all the 8 children out of 9. He's the last one. So they decide the mother is holding his right hand, the aunt is holding his left to make sure that he's not going to escape this time. And as they're walking towards the killers, the cousins and the other people are cheering the mother and the sister. Yes, go and kill this snake. The last one. Go and kill him.
Sans
Imagine,
pitié.
with no pity, no mercy. Your mother, please, let's understand this. Me, I watched my father being killed by a family relative, but it was not my mother. It wasn't even a brother of my mother. It was an extended relative. Now, this time, this is your own mother. Somebody who carried you for 9 months. Somebody who you saw for 7 years, you looked up to. She's the one holding your hands, okay? While they are like while they are sharpening the machetes to cut you, she's walking you towards them. Then look at how God does, okay? Mr. carry on.
Oui,
Continue.
c'est ça. Ce qui s'est passé dans les familles pendant le génocide, c'est incroyable. En racontant ça, je me suis rappelé aussi, parce qu'on est en train de parler de ce qui s'est passé dans les familles. Un autre témoignage que j'ai mis dans mon livre, Sortir indemne de l'affaire du génocide, c'était dans une famille où il y avait une femme Tutsi et un mari Hutu. Et un jeune garçon qui était âgé de 20 ans comme ça. Alors, quand le jeune garçon était sorti pour se promener, quand il est retourné, c'était pendant le génocide, il a trouvé sa maman morte, coupée la tête. Alors, il a demandé à son papa, mais oh, les miliciens sont arrivés ici, papa, les miliciens sont arrivés ici pour tuer ma mère. Et son père lui a dit, oh, mais tu ne savais pas que ta mère est Tutsi. Je viens te retuer. Et elle avait la machette. Et puis, le type, il a pris la machette de son père. Il a coupé aussi son père. Alors...
Wait, I need to translate it. Attendez que je traduise. Oh my God. So Mr. Omistas is sharing another story of somebody who il avait quel âge?
Le type avait 20 ans, le jeune.
Okay, so this man was 20 years old during the genocide against Tutsis of 1994. So he comes home during the genocide. He comes home and he finds his mom with her head, like somebody cut her head off. So she was dead. She was on the floor dead, but her head was cut off. And she's like, oh my God, somebody, like the killers, the Interahamwe, they were calling them the Interahamwe. The Interahamwe got in the house and they killed mom. So he's mourning his mom, right? And as he's mourning his mom, his dad is holding the machete, right? So the dad is like, no, they didn't come in. Didn't you know that your mother was Tutsi? I am the one who cut her head. And then the man, I can't call him a boy. He was 20, so he was adult. So the young man, he hears his father calling his mother like the cockroach, and I don't know, like those names. So then he takes the same machete that the mother was killed in, and he actually cut the head of his father.
Parce qu'il a témoigné après, il a dit non, non, moi je ne suis pas génocidaire, j'ai tué le génocidaire qui était mon père, qui venait de tuer ma mère. Il a témoigné.
Genocide, he testified and he's like, I am not a genocide perpetrator. I am not like a killer. But I killed my dad who cut my mother's head. So I cut my father's head like my father cut my mother's head.
Dans les familles, c'était comme ça. Il y avait aussi vraiment... Parce que même si les soldats de l'FPR, aussi, ils ont sauvé même beaucoup de Hutu parce qu'ils étaient en train de se tuer. Dans les familles, les membres des familles, les Hutus entre eux, ils avaient commencé à se tuer. Comme l'oncle d'Albert,
yes, I was gonna get
il a été tué. Voilà, l'oncle d'Albert, il a été tué.
Yeah.
Oui.
So okay, so Mr. Omistas was getting to the part that I actually was about to get to the part of Mr. Albert's story. By the way, he's trying by all means to come back. So we're gonna wait for him a little bit. If not, tomorrow we're gonna make sure that he comes with good internet, and then we'll come back for his part, because I want him to share, especially the part of forgiveness, because that one is just gonna blow your mind. But anyway, let's talk about his story, because his story is mind-blowing. So the mother and the aunt are walking him, okay? They are holding, one is holding the right hand, the other one is holding the left, and they are just walking towards the killer, and the cousin are cheering, yes, go, the last one, the last snake. Anyway, so then they get to the killers, okay? And then the uncle, the killer, okay, the uncle is like, it's late. Actually, go back home. We are tired. We are going to kill you tomorrow. So they take him back. They take him back the following day because they were tired of killing. They had killed a lot of people. So he goes back to his grandmother's house, okay? I kid you not, his story is crazy. He goes back to his grandmother's house, waiting because they were like, you know what, where will he run? There's nowhere to run. Tomorrow we're gonna finish him. So he goes. Then the following day, the mother takes him, walks him back to the killer and say, okay, wait for your uncle. So while he's waiting for his uncle, the uncle gets into a fight with his brother. So they were also actually, I don't know if it was, c'était son frère ou son cousin.
Oui, mais c'était tous des génocidaires.
Yes, okay, so I don't know if they were related, but they were all killers, okay? So they decided to fight over, during the genocide, the killers were not only just killing, they were also stealing like watches, money, and all those things. And then they will end up fighting amongst each other. So they will fight amongst who's going to get the bets, who's going to get the watch, who's going to get the clothes, who's going to get... So there was a fight among the uncle and then one of the killers. And they killed each other in the midst of the fight. So Mr. Albert was waiting to be killed, and then he witnessed his uncles, the people that were supposed to kill him, they killed each other. Then he goes, listen, this is ask him that question. What was in his mind? So he goes back to his grandmother's house, to his mom, okay, the one who drove him to be killed. And he goes and he says, well, the uncle that was supposed to kill me is dead. And listen to this. The mother starts mourning her brother. And that was the moment where he realized that he didn't matter to his mom. That his mother was more concerned about his brother who killed 8 of her children more than the fact that he survived his brother. Because when she saw him coming back, she's like, hey, you're still alive.
Mais ce qui était étonnant, quand ils sont arrivés avec Albert, ils ont trouvé son oncle tué avec une lance. Hein? On avait tué avec la lance. Après, la maman a perdu la tête. Elle a perdu la tête parce que... Alors, Albert a trouvé un moyen de s'échapper.
That's what I'm sharing. Imagine your mother is mourning this killer, okay, who killed 8 of her children. That's when our baby is like, you know what? I need to run now. I need to run because this woman, she's going to find somebody else to kill me because she was sad. I mean, she was mourning. She did not mourn her 8 children, but guys, I am so sorry. It's not funny, but it is funny. Imagine you go, okay, you think, and this is God. God saved Albert like how many times? 3 times. The first time he goes, they didn't kill. The second time, they're like, we are tired, tomorrow. The tomorrow happened, the guy is killed, okay? So now the killer is killed. Then that's when Albert is like, Albert is like, oh my God, while my mom is mourning her brother, I need to run away. And that's how he survived. Now, get this. After the genocide, right? The genocide is over. Now, he's 7. He's still 7 years old. He's now, remember, his cousins killed, his uncles, his neighbors, everybody were killers, okay? He's going back to live with his mother. Can you believe that? How do you feel? How will you feel when you are living with somebody that not once, not twice, she took your siblings down to the last born to be killed? Then you have to live with her. Then one day I want him to share his story. I don't want to share his story. Like, I want him to share his story because my God, we will have to come back tomorrow because you need to hear it from the horse's mouth. Because it's, for me, when I listened to his story for the first time, I told myself, I'm like, my story is nothing. At least for me, it's a family relative, but it's not a sibling. And it's not my mother like my mother did not, thank God she was gone. Like when I was reading the book, I was even thanking God. I'm like, God, I thank you that my mother died before the genocide. Like it was crazy, but those were the prayers that I was doing. I'm like, God, I thank you that at least my father wasn't killed by his wife. Like, I mean, how do you heal from that? Then he healed. He forgave her. She went to prison for 9 years. She came out of prison and lived with him. She lived with him for 2 years before she passed away. That's forgiveness on another level. Mr. Omisdas, what do you think?
Non, le problème, c'était la maman qui a vécu avec son fils qu'elle voulait tuer. Vous comprenez comment c'était dur, c'était très dur. Parce qu'après, quand on a arrêté le génocide, Albert est allé vivre avec sa maman. Ils étaient ensemble. Alors, mais Albert dit, bon, maman ne disait rien. À ce sujet, elle était toujours silencieuse.
Imagine, Monsieur Omistas, attendez. This is what actually Mr. Omistas added something that is so powerful. Imagine Albert ran away from his mom, okay? During the genocide, he runs away. Then, thankfully, by God's grace, the RPF takes over, okay? There's peace. Everybody's going back in their home. He has to go back to the home to live with the person he was running from. Imagine that trauma, that line of trauma. You are living with the person that you ran away from. At first, he was running to the grandmother's house to hide. Then he ran from the grandmother's house to hide from them. Then, after the genocide, he's going to the house where they took him to be killed. And during the time before she was arrested, she was not talking about it. She was very silent. Now imagine you are living, you are 7, okay? You still traumatized. You used to be 9, and now you are the only one alive. That's also a traumatic thing. From 8 siblings to none.
Yeah, traumatisant vraiment. Comment ils vivaient ensemble à 2? Ils étaient une grande famille de 11 personnes.
Imagine you were a family of 12 people. Then after the genocide, you are a family of 2, just your mom and you. And your mom is the one who's responsible for the other 10 people. I don't know. It's yeah.
Et finalement, vous vous rappelez qu'on a libéré.
En 2009. So she was arrested, and in 2009 she was released.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mais elle était très malade, vous comprenez. C'était trop traumatisant. Hein? Elle était très malade. Et après une année seulement, elle est morte.
Yeah.
Parce qu'elle ne parlait pas.
So after she was released from prison, she was not talking. She was sick, and then a year and few months later, she passed away.
Elle était en dépression.
She was depressed. She was depressed because the person she wanted dead was now the one taking care of her.
Yeah. Albert allait la trouver en prison.
Albert was visiting her during like the 9 years of prison. He went to visit her.
Yes.
So I want him to come back and talk about it because we can share his story.
No,
but his story, he needs to share it because especially the part of forgiveness, like the fact that he got to forgive, because it's something he said in one of the interview. The person asked him, they said, why did you go to visit her in prison when you knew she wanted you dead? And he's like, even though she wanted me dead, but she was the only family I was left with.
Yeah. Mais je n'arrivais pas à comprendre comment les gens étaient changés. Comme je vous disais au sujet de ce prêtre qui a détruit son église sur les réfugiés Tutsis avec le bulldozer. Il a appelé le bulldozer qui a détruit sur tous ces réfugiés. Mais on a compris. Et puis, il a été jugé à Arusha par le tribunal international. Il n'a pas été jugé ici parce que s'il était jugé ici, on pouvait dire il y a l'injustice. Non, c'est le tribunal international qui a jugé ce prêtre et on l'a trouvé coupable. Hein? Vraiment.
So Mr. Mr. is sharing the story about the priest. Like, remember the first time we're talking about that priest that actually destroyed his church. But actually he mentioned he didn't burn the church. He actually sent a bulldozer. He literally destroyed the whole church under the people that were inside hiding from the killers. Imagine you are running to church. Church is supposed to be a place of safety. Just like going to your grandmother is supposed to be a place of safety. You are running to church to hide, and then this person, the priest, just take a bulldozer and just destroyed everybody. And I think he was tried in the court, in the international courts of justice in Arusha, and he was actually found guilty of, and that's what Mr. is saying. It was not in Rwanda, because if it was in Rwanda, maybe people would think, oh, there was an injustice. No, it was an international court who found that priest, that priest guilty of killing. How many people were dead? C'était combien de gens qui étaient
dans... plus de 5000, je ne me rappelle plus, mais ils étaient
over 5,000 members.
Yes. Parce qu'il disait, dans l'église, c'est le lieu de Dieu, c'est le lieu saint. Alors, mais le prêtre était là. Même les sœurs là, je vous parlais au sujet de ces sœurs là dont vous parlez de Sauvé.
Yeah, I know that story very well.
Elles ont été jugées aussi par le tribunal de la Belgique. Ils étaient en Belgique.
I remember that trial.
Voilà.
I watched
voilà. On a dit vraiment, ils ont fait ça. Et ce sont des coupables. Vous vous imaginez. Acheter de l'essence pour brûler les gens. Vous vous imaginez. Alors que vous êtes religieuse. Donc,
he's saying, like, how can nuns do it? How can a Catholic priest do that? Like, how can a religious person, like, people are running over 5,000 people. It just, to me, I mean, even if I'm not even talking about numbers, for me, is the mindset of those people. Like, I wish we could study their mind, because there's something in their mind that is not the same as a normal human being. Because for me, I cannot fathom. You know, they're always saying that a killer's mindset, like, for you to be a killer, there is a certain there's certain way of seeing things. Sometimes the killers are afraid, that's why they kill. Others have, like, all this kind of thing. But for me, the level of animosity that happened in Rwanda in the genocide, I believe that there needs to be a study for the people's brain, like what was happening. Because for you to burn alive 5,000 people in your church, the church where you were teaching them about the love of God, the place where you were telling them that they can find peace and love, they ran to you because they felt like you were a place of safety, that you could hide them, and yet you are the one who burned them. I'm like, yeah.
Bon, il faut corriger, je vais corriger ça. Je ne sais pas si c'était 5000, mais ils étaient nombreux. Ils étaient nombreux, mais je vais voir.
He said he doesn't know the number. He doesn't want to say 5,000, even if it's one person. Let's put it this way: even if it's one congregant, like, for me, I still can't get it. Even if it's one person who is Tutsi, did that person ask to be Tutsi? You know, like the story of my cousin who was 1 year old and who was killed by his godfather, and he was begging his godfather. He's like, I won't be Tutsi anymore, I promise. Because he didn't even know what it means. Maybe Tutsi, you can act better and not be Tutsi anymore. And do you remember even Mr. Alexander last week? There was one person who was killed behind, you know, when he wanted to scream and his voice. there's somebody they stopped to kill, and even him, he wasn't a baby. He was an adult, and he was like, they asked him, "Are you Tutsi or are you Hutu?" He's like, "I'm Tutsi, but I promise I won't be Tutsi anymore." Like, even because you wonder, you're like, oh, maybe there's a sin, maybe there's something that we have done as Tutsi. For me, I didn't even know I was Tutsi. Me, I knew I was a cockroach. I knew I was a cockroach. So for me, I was like,
No, no, no.
why am
no.
I called a cockroach? Like, I know what Indians are. Like, I know them. But why am I called a cockroach? And why are we cockroaches? You know? Why, like there was a time you get to a place where they separate you, Indians here and then the Hutus. And I'm like, why are we, like, what makes me different from that person that is on the other line? You know, why? Like, what's wrong with me?
Eh
What
ouais.
do I have or what do I not, what don't I have?
Et puis, ce qui est intéressant, c'est la réconciliation. Alors, comment je vous ai montré la femme avec le bras coupé. Alors, cette réconciliation nous donne vraiment la vérité. Parce que les tueurs acceptent qu'ils ont tué un grand nombre.
Est-ce que vous pouvez partager l'histoire de Madame Alice et Monsieur Emmanuel? Parce que
Oui.
je connais l'histoire, mais les personnes qui nous écoutent ne connaissent pas l'histoire.
Oui, oui. C'était dans la région de Bugesera, à l'est du Rwanda. Alors, pendant le génocide, il y avait une femme qui s'appelle Alice, qui avait un seul enfant avec sa famille et son mari. Son mari, on ne parlait pas de comment son mari a été tué, mais le type là qui s'appelle Emmanuel, qui était son camarade de classe pendant l'école primaire, il est venu pour tuer Alice et son petit enfant. Il a tué son petit enfant et il a frappé beaucoup Alice, il a coupé son bras et puis il est parti pensant que Alice était morte.
Elle est morte, yes.
Mais heureusement, Alice a survécu. Et puis le type aura mis en prison et puis il a accepté toute sa responsabilité, qu'il a tué beaucoup de gens aussi, non seulement Alice, il avait tué d'autres. Mais il a accepté que il a tué l'enfant d'Alice et qu'il pensait qu'Alice aussi était morte.
Il était surpris.
Voilà, il était surpris de voir Alice, de voir Alice vivante. Yeah. Mais alors, comme il a demandé pardon, vraiment, sincèrement, Alice lui a pardonné. Mais ce qui est très amusant, ce sont des voisins.
Ils vivent.
Aujourd'hui, oui, aujourd'hui, ils sont même des amis.
Ils sont très amis, très proches. I need to translate it in English. So there is a province called Bugesera in Rwanda, and in that place, actually, there was a lot of animosity there. Actually, there will be some testimony of some people that actually survived in that region. I feel like that place was, I don't know, yeah, that place. Just stay tuned. There will be more testimonies that are on their way. But anyway, this lady Alice was married. And she had a child. And they don't mention a lot how her husband was killed, but her husband also died. But she had a child. So now, during the genocide against the Tutsis of 1994, the people that came to kill her, it was her friend who was her high school friend. They studied together. They went to high school together. So she knew him. So when he came to kill her, when he came to kill her and her child, he started by killing the child. So when he killed the child, then he started beating her. And as he beat her up, he took out his machete and he cut her hand. Okay, her hand is cut. Then she fainted and she fell because she was bleeding, and he thought she was dead. So she survived. Then the genocide ended. The man was arrested because that man killed also other people. So he was arrested. Then during the court, he admitted that he killed many people and also included the child of Alice. However, he also believed that he also had killed Alice. Because when he left that house, he was convinced that Alice and the child were cleaned up. They were done. So during the court, he was surprised to realize that Alice is alive. So he goes to prison. He finishes his sentence. He comes out. And so he recognized, he said the truth, and he asked for forgiveness. And Alice forgave him. Now, today, Alice and Emmanuel are very good friends, okay? She forgave him for killing her son. He asked for forgiveness. They are living neighbors. They're living next to each other. And they live in peace. They live in peace. Complete peace. Now, I am asking anybody listening to me right now who's struggling to forgive maybe your mother, your father, your relative, or your boyfriend, or your husband, or whatever. If Alice, who watched her own son, her own child, being killed by this man cuts her hand, leave her for dead, has the ability to forgive, what is stopping you from forgiving? You see, we're doing these testimonies not to talk about the atrocity that happened to us. All of the people that I'm going to bring to you are people that everything that they want, they're not sharing for you to feel bad about themselves, their stories, because we are survivors, but we learn to take our pain and turn it into a purpose. So our purpose is to tell people forgiveness is possible. We can build again together with our own enemies. Alice and Emmanuel live in Bugesera in peace. They are neighbors. They are friends. So whenever you hear people talking about Rwanda, there is no peace in Rwanda, there is whatever, please go. Take a trip to Bugesera and go and meet Alice and Emmanuel. Those are real, raw story of people, a genocide survivor living with a genocide killer together, who acknowledged that he made a sin, who paid his dues in jail, and now is a non-citizen who's living with his family. We are not sharing this to bring division. We are sharing this to enlighten people the truth about the leadership of our country, the fact that we want to move forward. We want to be able to build people to know that there is no Tutsis, Hutus, there's Rwandans. We are all Rwandans. Today, I have a Rwandan ID, and it's not written Tutsi, it's written Rwanda. I'm Rwandan. We don't talk about Tutsi, Rwandan, Hutus, whatever. We are Rwandans because we don't want our children. I don't want my child to ask me, are you Hutu, are you Tutsi? I am Rwandan. My child will be born and be Rwandan and not be Tutsi or Hutu. So that is why, but we are talking to you. Sorry, Mr. Elmistas.
Oui, quand Alice témoignait, il y avait encore deux personnes aussi qui étaient des tueurs, hein, et les victimes qui ont pardonné à ces génocidaires. L'un a trouvé pendant le génocide une maman qui était en train d'arrêter son enfant. Alors, il avait la machette et puis il a coupé la tête de l'enfant avec le sein de sa mère. Donc, la maman disait, il voyait par terre la tête de son enfant et son sein dans sa bouche. Là, quand il fait toutes ces choses, alors, on a fait cette terrible. Alors, ils ont témoigné même à la télévision. Alors, il disait, la tête de ton enfant, avec la maman est vivante et elle a survécu. Mais son sein est parti avec l'enfant. Alors, attends que je termine. Il y avait un autre là aussi qui a un génocidaire pour punir un jeune Tutsi qui s'était caché Et puis il disait que il a fatigué beaucoup. Il a pris un sac, il a mis une grosse pierre. Hein. Il a lié le sac là avec la pierre sur le coude de ce jeune. Il a jeté dans la grande rivière à Kagera. En fait, que le jeune reste en bas de l'eau. Mais le jeune, quand il descendait, il savait nager. C'était un miracle vraiment. Il a retiré.
Oui, c'est le témoignage. Est-ce que c'est le témoignage de Monsieur Adams?
Non. Ça se trouve dans mon livre Sortir indemne. J'ai mis ça. Alors, le type a survécu, ils se sont rencontrés, ils témoignaient à 6, Alice avec ses deux autres. Ils habitent ensemble à Bugesera. Tous habitent à Bugesera.
Guys, I'm sorry, but this place, Bugesera, is a place that the craziest thing happened in that place. Okay, so if you think Alice's story is traumatic, the next two stories I'm about to share with you is going to be worse. So oh Jesus. So another oh Lord Almighty. So another story. This woman is breastfeeding her child, okay? She's breastfeeding her child, and the killer were passing. And they saw the woman, and they knew the woman was Tutsi. So one of the killer took out his machete, and he cut the head of the baby, but he also cut the breast of the mother. So the mother's breast and the baby's head were all cut. And she survived. Oh, Jesus. And she, like Alice, forgave the man who cut her breast and her child. And they're both living together as neighbors. Another forgiveness story. This man was Tutsi, and the killer wanted to kill him. So one of the killer decided to actually, oh my God, I am wondering why I'm not crying. I feel like I'm getting stronger and stronger every day. I think it's because I read so many stories before today to prepare myself that the tears are gone. By the way, guys, from this day forward, every Monday and Thursday, we will have testimony time. So we have, when I say we have crazy stories, it gets crazier along the way. So the third story, this man, they decided to kill him, but they decided not to cut him to pieces or to do anything. One of the killers looked for a big stone. Okay, they took for like a very big stone. They put it in a bag. They tied the bag with the big stone, and they rolled the bag on his neck. Okay, to make sure that he has a heavy load, and they threw him in the river. The river, like a very big river. It's called
Kagera.
Kagera River. Okay,
yeah.
They threw him in that river. They thought he was dead, but this man found his way to swim with the stone on his neck, and he survived. Now, him and the person who threw him in the river, they also are living together, and they forgave each other.
Ils habitent à Bugesera. Chacun qui peut aller voir, il peut voir vraiment.
Mr. or Mrs. knows where they live. So if you want to see them, you can go to Rwanda, and he will take you to Bugesera to go and see.
Ils sont là. Mais ils ont été aidés par le...
So, Alice is still in Bugesera. Alice and Emmanuel are in Bugesera. That woman
Elle est,
who
elle est
the
4
breast
ans.
the
Oui,
breast.
tous ils sont à Bugesera. Ils habitent à Bugesera.
They all in
Ils ont été aidés par un prêtre parce qu'il y avait un programme qu'on appelle Mvura Mvure de guérison. Alors, c'était dans ce programme, le prêtre, parce qu'ils étaient chrétiens, il a dit non, vous êtes chrétiens, alors il faut demander pardon, que les tueurs demandent pardon et que les victimes acceptent de pardonner. Ils sont arrivés à se pardonner alors, mais avec l'aide avec la foi quand même. Parce qu'ils étaient des croyants, des chrétiens. Ils disent, mais vous venez dans l'église alors que il n'y a pas. Votre histoire est terrible. Alors, ils sont arrivés à se pardonner. Ils habitent ensemble. Ils se sont des voisins. Mais c'est terrible.
I'm telling you, Bujesera people are incredible. When you talk about forgiveness, so he was saying that all these people, there's a priest in Bujesera who had this association, Vuramuvure. It's like
Guérison.
like a
guérison.
healing program, because all the people, all the killers, okay. That's another funny story, okay. I don't know if it's funny, but it's a very intriguing thing. All the killers were Christian. They were going to church. So after the genocide, they went back to the church. So the priest was like, wait a minute. For you to be able to be like coming back to the church, you have to be able to be honest and share the truth. Share the story as true, as painful as it can be. So because the priest created this environment of forgiveness and like this campaign of like encouraging the killers to share what they did and encouraging the survivors also to share what happened to them, they got to a place of forgiveness and they living together. Alice and Emmanuel have neighbors. The lady with the breast who they cut the breast, she's living with the kid. She's neighbors with her the person who cut her breast and her baby. The guy who was thrown in the river is also a neighbor with the person who threw him in the river. So that's the time where people now got to heal, but by sharing the truth, by saying the truth. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. It's important to share the truth, whether it's bad. Look at Emmanuel and Alice. Now they are good friends. Now they are sharing their testimony.
Il faut même témoigner partout.
They testify together, and they will be testifying. Huh? Yes, they will be testifying here. So anyway, you guys keep subscribe, because every week we will have 2 testimonies. And it's getting crazier and crazy. The reason why I'm not crying, to be honest, I read many stories of many people that are going to be coming here. So I feel like my brain is getting like stronger, and my body and my emotions are getting stronger and stronger, because it's going to get crazier and unthinkable more that we go. But I promise, I'm not here to traumatize you. Everybody who's gonna be sharing their story, we want to empower people to forgive, whether you are a genocide survivor or you just somebody who carries offense in your heart. Our prayer is that when you hear our story, because nobody can survive the genocide and not believe that there is a God. Nobody.
Yeah.
Because there's no way you can survive this kind of atrocity. You know, we are laughing. We are laughing because we are healed. You can only laugh when you are healed. But let me tell you this. You can only heal when you share the truth, as bad as it can be. Whether it's you who killed somebody, or whether it's you who was killed by somebody, you have to share your story. And this platform is not just for genocide survivors. We are going to hear also children who were born from a rape by a killer, and they were raised and wanted. They were born, so they were conceived genocide, and for 27 years they are carrying that mark on their back. We are going to hear stories of children of genocide perpetrators. Children who went to their father and said, "But dad, why did you kill?" And the dad will be like, "Yeah, actually, I didn't kill enough. We should have just killed everybody."
Et puis, heureusement, ces exemples se trouvent presque partout au Rwanda, parce qu'il y a ce programme de Mvura partout, et il y a ces exemples. J'ai écrit ces exemples pour qu'ils soient des modèles à suivre, parce qu'ils se trouvent partout au Rwanda, et ils ne sont pas nombreux, mais partout au Rwanda, on peut trouver des cas comme le cas d'Alice et Emmanuel, et partout au Rwanda, parce qu'on a établi
So
ce
he's
programme.
mentioning that
Heureusement.
thank God. So he's mentioning that these kind of stories of genocide survivors living with the killers, the people that actually try to kill them, it's actually all over the country. Like you find like stories, incredible stories of forgiveness, like that people that just forgive to the point that they are living with the perpetrator. I myself, let me actually share my own testimony, okay? Because me, I was not healed at that time when it happened. I went to Rusumo. That's where my grandfather, my dad's dad, was living during the genocide against the Tutsis of 1991. So in my family, I lost 98% of my family on my father's side. And the only body that we have in my family, the only person we found out of the 98% of the people is my grandfather. And why did we find it? Because so his story, Rusumo is like it's a town that is very close to the Tanzanian border, the Rwanda-Tanzanian borders, and there is a river in between that. So for you to get to Tanzania, you crossing a big, very very big river. That's where they threw my grandmother's body there, and one of her children. So when he was by the border of Tanzania entering, somebody told him, "They killed all your children. Kurawiji is dead. Her child is dead. Everybody is dead. You know, your wife is dead. Your children are dead." So he's entering Tanzania, and they tell him that all his 12 children, actually I would say 11, because two of my uncles were in Otanyi. They were in the RPF army at the time, so they were not in Rwanda. So I would say 10 of his children are all dead. So imagine if they tell you 10 of your children are dead, your wife is dead. Are you going to run? No. My grandfather just went backward and decided to walk back home. The place he was running from, he went back home. And on his way, while he was entering, getting by his house, literally, imagine the house is here, maybe 3 minutes, because I went to see where actually they killed him. His neighbors. Now, let me actually highlight the fact that those neighbors. So my grandfather was a catechist. Catechist, catechist. You know, in Catholic, the Sunday school teacher. But in the Catholic side, he was a Sunday school teacher. But in the Catholic church, they call them catechists. So he was a Catholic school teacher. The children he was teaching, the people he was teaching, are the one that killed him. So they saw him walking, and they're like, "Oh, Karole Ayashi." So they my grandfather's name was Karole. Yes. They ran to him, and 3 just circled him, and they cut him to pieces as if it wasn't enough. They opened a hole in that place. I went there. They opened a hole and they threw his remaining dead. Thank God. So the remaining of my grandfather were very close to my father, to his house. That's how we got his remaining, and we buried him in a respectful way after the genocide. That's the only grave that my family has. So every time when I go to Rwanda, that's where I go to mourn my father, my grandmother, everybody. Now, The first time I went to Rwanda in 2012. I go to Rusumo for the first time. I walk around where he was killed, and I get to the grave. I have a picture. I'm standing and I'm mourning my dad. I'm mourning my everybody. I'm mourning my grandmother because I went to the river to actually pray because my grandmother was thrown in that river. Yeah. 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 I'm sorry. And I'm mourning everybody that I lost. And 3 men comes. Okay? They hug my uncle, who's a priest. They hug him, they greet him. They come and they greet me. So I greet them. And I'm still mourning my grandfather, my mother, my everybody, because we don't have any grave. I don't even know where my dad is. And as they leave, my uncle is like, "Do you see these men over there?" I said, "Yeah. They are the one who killed your grandfather." Oh my Jesus. You can imagine how I felt. I'm standing in front of my grandfather's grave. I just hugged the people that cut my grandfather to pieces.
Non, partout c'est comme ça. Partout au Rwanda.
I wasn't healed. This was my first time coming back to Rwanda. So I wasn't even healed. At that time, I wasn't even healed. It was traumatic. Because I was like, oh my God, I just hugged the killers.
I understand.
I got to a place to understand that in order to be able to believe, you have to forgive. Forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is necessary. If in Rwanda we had not forgiven, I don't know where we would be. It's not that it's not hurtful. I am scared of going to Rusumo. Whenever I get there, I literally don't look even there because they still live there. So I can't. It's hard for me to go back to the grave of my grandfather.
Yeah.
But it's, to tell you the truth, I forgave them. Did I forgive them that day? No. Oh my gosh. I just didn't want even to stay there. I wanted to go. I was like, I am done. I don't want to stay there. But I healed. If I see them today, I will not have anything in my heart because God healed me and allowed me to forgive them.
Yeah.
So forgiveness is necessary to move forward.
Yeah. Et, oui, ils doivent être des modèles pour les autres qui continuent à utiliser le mensonge comme une arme. Parce que il y a ces modèles au Rwanda, les gens qui se sont réconciliés, qui ont accepté la vérité. Et puis, s'il a tué, il accepte, j'ai tué beaucoup. Et puis, les victimes aussi disent, non, il faut continuer à vivre et donner un bon héritage à nos enfants. Ils acceptent aussi à pardonner. Alors, ce sont des modèles pour tous les Rwandais, vraiment. Il y en a dans chaque coin du Rwanda, ces gens qui ont accepté la vérité et qui ont mis en avant le pardon pour vivre ensemble et laisser un bon héritage à leurs enfants. Vraiment, c'est heureusement.
Mr. Albert has had issues. So what we're gonna do? We're going to yeah, it's okay. He's apologizing. Let me actually tell him. Yeah. So Yeah, so tomorrow we will come back, same time, same place. I would love for you to hear Mr. Albert's story, especially the part of forgiveness, because it is amazing. His story helped me to forgive my family. His story helped me to forgive actually the people that killed my dad and my grandfather and even my uncles and my cousins and all that. So I encourage you to come back. So yeah, so it's not easy. Forgiveness is necessary. Sorry, he's the one texting. Yeah, he said he lost network. He's like he's tried
Yeah.
so many times. But tomorrow we'll make sure that we have him back with the network all together. So please come back tomorrow, for the second part of his interview. And I know it will be something that you will not regret. So, Mr. Omis, does you have any parting shots before we go?
C'est ça, c'est ça. Je voulais souligner ce que je disais à propos de la réconciliation. Ce n'est pas, nous disons ça, ce n'est pas pour dire des histoires qui sont seulement poignantes et traumatisantes, mais nous voulons montrer les modèles à suivre. Hein. Parce que vraiment, au Rwanda, c'était l'enfer, c'était horrible. Mais il y a des gens qui ont dépassé, qui ont surmonté ces difficultés. Et maintenant, ils vivent en paix ensemble, en pensant aux futures générations, pour vraiment que, que dans le Rwanda règne la paix. Parce que si on ne se pardonne pas, donc il y aura des vengeances, de la haine, du ressentiment. Mais avec le pardon, ça termine. Voilà, Alice et l'autre, elles sont tuées. Ils vivent ensemble. Ils sont vraiment des amis. Il y a aussi des autres exemples vraiment à suivre, qui sont des modèles. Même, ce sont des modèles même pour le monde, parce que partout dans le monde, il y a des conflits. Mais il faut arriver à la réconciliation, à dire la vérité. La première fois, c'est dire la vérité, accepter cette vérité, accepter que le génocide contre le Tutsis a eu lieu au Rwanda, et puis ceux qui ont participé à ce génocide, accepter vraiment ce génocide, et, et les victimes, accepter de pardonner ces gens. Alors, voilà, c'est la seule solution, il n'y a pas d'autre solution.
Yeah, so Mr. Omistas is saying that in conclusion, what he can say that again, like I said, we will make sure that these interviews are subtitled and translated, because I'm not doing a great job at fully translating word for word what they say, because I'm also emotional. So it's not. You're gonna forgive me about that, but you will have the subtitles done in the near future. So he's saying that in conclusion, what he said, that these amazing stories of forgiveness is not just for genocide survivors. We actually are not doing the reason why I am translating it in English. I live in America. I have Americans friends that never experienced and would never experience a genocide, but they would definitely experience pain. Like in one way or another, you will experience pain, you will experience betrayal, you will experience abandonment, you will experience all kind of abuse or any kind of pain. Being able to forgive, being able to know that forgiveness is the greatest gift that you can give to yourself, and speaking the truth, like the truth is important, like the truth is the only thing that can keep you and set you free. Like it's an important thing. It's important to remember that the only way you can experience true freedom is by sharing the truth and being honest with you. And the people that are going to testify, to share their stories, um they are people that want to be able to empower others to forgive, empower others to know that you can come out of pain. You know, you can watch your child being killed and still forgive and still live with the killer. You can have one breast being cut by a killer and still live with that killer and love and see them as human being. They might have not seen you as a human being when they did it, but when God encounters you, like, I mean, you get a place to know that forgiveness is a place where you find your healing. For me, I had to forgive for myself. I didn't forgive for anybody. I forgive it for me because I could not. You cannot grow with bitterness. You cannot be the best version of yourself with bitterness. You can only be the worst version of yourself with bitterness. And let me tell you the thing, the person who hurt you or who did anything to you might have even moved on, or even like, doesn't even care. But you keep that grief. So do yourself a favor, forgive, because forgiveness is the only way you can experience true freedom. So Mr. Albert said tomorrow he will make sure that his internet is great and he will be here. So tomorrow we're coming back, same place, same time, at this point, and we're gonna hear his part, because I cannot. Whew, I cannot stretch enough. The story, his testimony is just beyond word. So, Mr. or Miss Das, can you please pray for us as we go,
Yeah.
before we go?
Dieu notre Père, notre Créateur, donne-nous la force de dire la vérité, d'accepter ce qui s'est passé au Rwanda, parce que dans votre parole nous dit que c'est la vérité qui nous rendra libres. Nous avons connu cette vérité et nous voulons que tout le monde, tous les Rwandais, même partout dans le monde, règne la vérité, parce que c'est la seule vérité qui rend libre les hommes. Ce n'est pas le mensonge. On peut continuer à dire le mensonge parce que le mensonge, c'est le père du mensonge, c'est le diable. Alors, nous ne voulons pas que les gens continuent à travailler pour le diable, hein, avec les mensonges. Non, le génocide s'est déroulé au Rwanda. Tout le monde a vu ce génocide parce qu'on tue les gens pendant la journée, alors que vraiment, les Rwandais et le monde acceptent que le génocide, c'est derrière le Rwanda, qu'il n'y a pas eu double génocide, et que nous acceptons cette vérité, et que nous avons des modèles, des gens qui ont accepté cette vérité, que ce soit les tueurs, que ce soit les victimes, que ce soit nos modèles à suivre pour construire un monde meilleur. Nous te le demandons par notre Seigneur Jésus-Christ. Amen.
Amen. So thank you all for coming, and see you tomorrow for the second part of Mr. Albert, because he did not have a good network. So tomorrow we will be back for him to share his story in full. So he said he will make sure that his internet is great. So God bless you, and see you tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Omistas. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.